Who are the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL today? What's going on, football fans? It's Mitch back here with another NFL rankings video on the Bottom Line View, ranking the top 32 best interior D linemen in the sport in the NFL entering 2024. That's right, we're ranking the big men on the defensive side of the ball, the best run stuffers, the best pass rushers, the best all-around interior D linemen in the NFL from number 32 to number 1, the top 32 interior D linemen in the NFL. If that sounds good, don't forget to spike the like button and subscribe for more NFL rankings leading up to the 2024 NFL kickoff. Also, let me know in the comments what you agree with and what you disagree with on this list and within my rankings. Always love hearing your opinion, so let me know. Let's get to it, guys. Let's begin with the 32nd best interior defensive lineman in the NFL. That is Sheldon Rankins, now of the Cincinnati Bengals. Sheldon Rankins, he was signed by the Bengals after they lost DJ Reader to the Detroit Lions. And Sheldon Rankins is an all-around, very solid starting D lineman. You can count on him in all situations, on all three downs. He's a very steady run defender. He has played in a multitude of different defenses, a multitude of different defensive line rotations. He played for the Saints. I believe he was once upon a time a first-round pick for the Saints. He's played for the Texans last year under DeMeco Ryans. He's played for the Jets under Robert Saleh. And he does best fit that Robert Saleh, DeMeco Ryans type of style of D-line and defense. But now he makes his way to Cincinnati. And I think the way they look at this addition is somebody that's going to give them a little bit more explosiveness up front. In my opinion, underrated for his ability to win in his pass rush with power and with hands. Rankins was 10th in win percentage on the defensive line quietly this past season. He was also somebody that put up 6 sacks as a member of a deep Texans rotation. So if you keep him a little fresh, you get him going as a pass rusher, he's definitely going to be a plus over DJ Reader in that regard and help the other players like Trey Hendrickson up front. He might not be quite the nose tackle, just absolute sledgehammer in the run game, but I do feel that he's an upgrade in the pass rush department. So Rankins, very good all-around D lineman, has been very solid for a number of years. I expect good quality play in Cincinnati in 2024. At number 31, a player that also played for the Texans last year, but is now a member of the San Francisco 49ers and has made his way to a new team. That's Malik Collins. Malik Collins has been on the Texans the last couple of years. I've been a big fan of Malik Collins. I liked him when he was a member of the Cowboys, was kind of forgotten about in Dallas, not a huge name in Dallas. I think he really improved in Houston, and I just love the way he plays in his pass rush. I think he's got really quick burst, really quick hands. I think he's able to just get inside guards and centers at a high level. And I think he's a very smart player. He's also always on the field. You can count on him. He's very consistently available. And that's, I think, the area that San Francisco really looked at and said, this guy's worth it. Because with Arik Armstead, his decline has not really come from his play, but it's mostly come from his availability. And I think Malik Collins is a player that's going to be more available. I think he gives them a little bit more beef, a little bit more thickness, a little bit more size to his game. Arik Armstead's more of like a hybrid D tackle. So it does add a little bit of beef inside for the Niners. And he is somebody capable of putting up 4.5, 5, 6 sacks a year. He's not going to dominate a 9, 10 sack season. But alongside Javon Hargrave, I'd look out because this is one of the quickest penetrating D-line combos, in my opinion, in football. So at number 31, Malik Collins. At number 30, Kalijah Kancey. His rookie season was very flashy and promising, but we saw him really break out in the playoffs against the Detroit Lions and just overall the playoffs. The Eagles, he had a dominant playoff run for the Tampa Bay Bucks. It was only a couple of games, but I felt like Kalijah Kancey was absolutely on fire in those games. You saw his elite athleticism, his elite jump off that ball. He is a little bit smaller, a little bit slimmer for a defensive tackle, but man, is he quick. His hands are quick, his feet, his ability to burst off that snap. Calijah Kancey is dangerous, and I can't wait to see him in year 2 with his development alongside Vita Vea. I think they're a perfect blend of power, size, and speed and quickness. I think Calijah Kancey could lead this team in sacks this year. I think he's going to have a huge breakout year. So overall, this is not just a collection of what he was able to do as a rookie. It's how he finished last year, the promising signs we saw from him last year. You add that up and you combine that into a first-round pick who was electric on tape coming out of college, and you put that into a year 2 sophomore package, and I'm expecting big things from Kancey in 2024. At number 29, Devonte Wyatt, a similar deal to Calijah Kancey, a young player who enters year 3 now with the Green Bay Packers, but he's going to have a little bit of a different scenario where he's changing defenses, he's changing schemes. So under the Packers, he's been more so playing, I would say, a traditional like 3-4 defensive end type of 5-tech technique. Sometimes they would allow him to play on 4-man lines, a nickel position, sort of 3-tech. But I would say that he's been kind of a mix in and out of those positions. And I don't think he's been comfortable in the run game specifically in this pass defense under Joe Barry. But we've seen huge flashes from him as a just pin your ears back, get to the quarterback, penetrate, and win. And he shows and flashes elite hands in the NFL. He had the second best PRP grade, pass rushing productivity grade, among all interior defensive linemen in 2023. It's just that he is kind of one-dimensional right now as a player. He is a weakness against the run, and he also is a bit of a rotation player still at this point in his career. But in a new scheme that's more wide 9 based, more 4-man front, more of a 4-3 traditional style, I think he's really going to thrive the way that he did at Georgia. I wouldn't be shocked if Wyatt became like one of the most disruptive pass rushers at this position this year. I think he's going to have a huge year alongside Kenny Clark. So at number 29, Wyatt is on the rise. At number 28, one of my favorite underrated players in the NFL, period, BJ Hill. So this is 2 interior defensive linemen for the Bengals on this list. I love BJ Hill, man. He's just a very high IQ player. He's a beauty on the field. I think he's just a funny looking dude. He's got the, like the BJ Raji type deal. Both the BJs, but they're like these big, round, athletic, almost Vince Wilfork-esque type of guys. Maybe not quite that big, but bro, BJ Hill is a baller. That's the best way to describe it. He had 2 picks last year. Like, I don't know how this guy gets so many interceptions, tip passes, but he's disruptive in all aspects of the game. I think he's a very underrated pass rusher overall. He has a great motor. He plays a ton of snaps for the Bengals defense. I think he's a little bit weaker in terms of his run defense overall. That's really where the Bengals were quite frequently gashed on their defense last year. But I think as a disruptor in the pass department, an overall guy that just plays fundamentally sound and just has an awareness that is unique for a defensive tackle and an athleticism that doesn't appear like it really is going to take shape in that type of body, BJ Hill is a special player. So at number 28, really like BJ Hill, think he's super underrated at number 28. At number 27, Grover Stewart of the Indianapolis Colts. Grover Stewart's one of the best run defenders in the NFL. He's not going to put up a ton of sacks. He's not going to put up a ton of pressures even. But I would say in terms of nose tackles, big run-stopping defensive linemen in football, he's one of the steadiest guys in the league. He is one of the hardest to move at the point of attack. He is just not being moved by anybody. And that allows guys like DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye, and the rest of the Colts D-line to really feast along with their smaller, faster linebackers. Because when Grover Stewart is in there, he holds up that double team. He holds up the point of attack. He holds up the line of scrimmage for those linebackers like Franklin to find the football. And you need those type of guys. So when you look at his box score, when you look at his basic statistics, they're not going to wow you. But when you look at things like his grade, you look at his run stops, you look at his disruption levels, when you watch the Colts, you constantly see the offensive line on the opposing team being absolutely caved in. That is because of Grover Stewart. So at number 27, one of the better run defenders in the sport, Grover Stewart. At number 26, DJ Reader. A nice transition from Grover to DJ. Both big nose tackles in the NFL. Reader ranks a little bit lower than he would usually on my lists, just because he is a rather one-dimensional player. Like, in terms of his pass rush, he is mostly just a bull rusher. He is going to try to push the pocket and make people uncomfortable, and the quarterback's on the other team to have to move around to potentially like move into a sack to the edge player. He's not a guy that's really going to have a bunch of like moves and he's going to rip you and then spin you and then get to the quarterback. Like, no, he's just going to push the pocket. But in terms of run defense, he's been one of the most dominant run defenders at nose tackle, D tackle in the NFL. And I think his versatility is also pretty rare, where he kind of was like known as a 3-4 kind of nose tackle Vince Wilfork, and then he kind of went to Cincinnati, and he's done that a little bit where he's been the shade over the center type deal, but he's also like morphed into more of a 3-tech at times as well. So he does showcase some versatility in his positioning and how he plays. And I just think in every big game the Bengals have had over these recent years, like DJ Reader has been such an important part to their success in terms of not allowing other teams to get a run game going, really stopping that, and just kind of allowing everyone around him to feast. So Reader's one of those players. Now the problem is he has an Achilles injury. I think he had an Achilles injury in his past, and then he had a quad injury, if I'm not mistaken, this past year. So 2 major injuries, or maybe it's both quads. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bengals fans. I think he's had 2 major lower body injuries, period. So those are serious, and especially for powerful D linemen that really engage their power from their lower half, that's very important. So Reader, to me, I think he's going to be good in Detroit. I just wonder if he will take a step back due to the injuries piling up on him. He's still not too old. I'm really fascinated to see how him and McNeil will work in tandem. I think that he is going to lessen McNeil's load in terms of the run defense and allow him to really get after things in the pass rush, and Reader can really do his thing in the run game. But the Lions have already been a fantastic run defense, so I think he's only going to make them that much better. So really interesting fit at number 26, DJ Reader in Detroit. At number 25, Osa Odighizuwa of the Dallas Cowboys. I think one of the more underrated interior defensive linemen in the sport over the last 3 years or so. Odighizuwa has come on as one of the best pure pass rushers at this position. Extremely quick burst off the ball. Really good ability to get inside and penetrate. And he did improve as a run defender, in my opinion, this past season. He's pretty slippery in terms of his ability to get low and engage with centers and guards in the run game. He is a little bit outmanned in terms of beef and strength at times in the run game, but he uses his quickness, he uses his hands, he uses his pop off the ball to make an impact both as a pass rusher and a run defender. I think in terms of pure passing situations, there's probably only about 6 or 7 D linemen you would want over Odighizuwa, which has made the Cowboys one of the most explosive, fastest pass rushes in football, and he's a big part of it. Doesn't get enough credit because Micah Parsons is there, DeMarcus Lawrence is there. He's rarely brought up, but he's a huge piece to that pie. At number 24, I've got Alim McNeil. My goodness. McNeil is at number 24. And I really feel like McNeil is an interesting case because he started his career as pretty much like a steady run defender, really technically sound, smart. His IQ was like beyond his years. And he was really known for his disruption in the run game. And then this past year, he kind of slimmed down. He had less of an importance in the run game, although still very fundamentally sound, kind of wickedly strong for a guy in that package, in that size. But he slimmed down to become quicker, more disruptive, and have more of an impact as a pass rusher. And we really saw that in 2023. I think that's only going to continue in 2024. Huge part of the Lions D-line, right? People don't really give him credit. In all facets of the game, he really doesn't have any weaknesses. He's not a guy that you would expect to have 8+ sacks in a season, but he's definitely going to be some of the tackles for loss department, the holding up and engaging centers, guards, even tackles at times in the run game, and being able to kind of steer and rip and get to the back or make a tackle in the run game. He's very, very solid there. And then also just his disruption to allow guys like Aiden Hutchinson in the pass game to really feast off of his ability to penetrate. So at number 24, McNeil of the Detroit Lions. At number 23, Zach Sealer of the Miami Dolphins. I think statistically speaking, probably the most underrated defensive lineman in the NFL. When you look at things like run stops or stops, you think about sacks, you think about pressures, you think about volume statistics, you think about efficiency statistics. Zach Sealer has been one of the most underrated players in the NFL in that department, right? Nobody brings him up. Everybody brought up Christian Wilkins. Of course, they've got Jalen Phillips, they've got Bradley Chubb, and a lot of other interior defensive line are brought up before Zach Sealer. But this guy is a baller, like a really good football player, high IQ, always seems to make a big play in a big moment. He's, I think, more athletic than given credit for, and he really understands, pass rushing games, pass rushing stunts. He's really slippery and really deceptively athletic, and he's got enough strength and enough power to make it work for him. But I feel like he's mostly, a disruptor, mostly a guy that is going to slip through, and he has really, really been featured in a lot of those areas where Wilkins takes attention, Chubb will take attention, Phillips takes attention. Like, he this past season really feasts because the offensive lines weren't really paying attention to Sealer as much, and I think he had like 9 or 10 sacks, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, he put up some big-time numbers this year. He was also top 10 in run stops, just a 3-down player. Mostly known for, I feel like last year, his run defense, but this year he put up the sacks to prove that he's more of a multi-dimensional player. So at number 23, he's played in a couple different defenses now. I think he played under Flores. He's played under Fangio. He's going to play in a bunch of different defenses. Right now they're going to shift to more of a Mike McDonald style under Weaver, I believe. So it's going to be interesting to see how he continues to perform in these different schemes and different nuances. But at number 23, Zach Sealer, super underrated. At number 22, Cameron Hayward. I still have respect for the future Hall of Famer. Cameron Hayward, just one of the NFL's workhorses. He was injured last year and did not have a great year. He did try to play as much as he could, but he just wasn't the same guy. So a lot of people might remove him from this list or just have him severely downgraded, which I understand because of his age, but I think that would be pretty, disrespectful given that he had 10+ sacks the last 2 years in a row before this injury. I think the injury had most to do with it, but when you think about Cameron Hayward, man, this guy's just a complete defensive lineman. Run game, pass game, toughness, plays with an old school edge, great leader, very smart player. I think he's very nuanced in his hand fighting. I think he's very powerful and very strong. And he really doesn't have any weaknesses. Like, he's got good quickness, good strength, good power, good in the run, good in the pass. Just could probably play in any defense. He's put up 10, 12 sacks multiple times in his career. Just a very, very good player. I think he's the Walter Payton Man of the Year. So congratulations to him. That's a big deal. Great player, just a great player. I think he's going to bounce back in a big way in 2024. Plus, it helps that he doesn't have to be even the second best pass rusher on this team. He can be the third or fourth, and they'll still be very good. So, at number 22, Cameron Hayward. At number 21, David Onyemata of the Atlanta Falcons. In my opinion, one of the biggest, toughest D linemen in football. Onyemata is a special breed of human. He is massive. He's tall, he's long, and he's powerful and strong. If I'm not mistaken, I believe David Onyemata once upon a time played in the CFL. Or he at the very least came out of Canada. I might be mistaken about that, but as a Canadian, I feel like I did hear that or remember that at some point. But thinking of that, I mean, it's just unfair. But David Onyemata, he's huge. His arms are really what allow him to be so successful as a run defender. He's got these giant arms, and I feel like he has been one of the best interior defensive linemen in terms of run defense in the NFL the last 4 years. Because you think about the Saints run defense over the years, you think about the Falcons run defense last year by the end of the year that was number one in success rate. Onyemata was a key piece to both of those things, right? Ryan Nielsen brought him to Atlanta because of the defense that he ran in New Orleans and then wanted to run in Atlanta. And he was a smooth transition. I felt like he was the best defensive lineman on the Falcons last year, better than Grady Jarrett, better than Calais Campbell. He was disruptive as a pass rusher. He's got that length, so he's able to just lock out and move people around. And then in the pass rush, he's able to get his hands on you before you can get your hands on him. And he's just able to move you to the side and get into the backfield with ease. Yeah, so that length, that size, that power is a combination of one of the best nose tackles in the NFL at number 21. At number 20, Eric Armstead, who equally has phenomenal length and phenomenal size. I think Armstead has lost a little bit in terms of his pure power and run defense and his ability to just manhandle people up front. I think that he is very fundamentally sound. He's very versatile. He's a Swiss Army knife, which is very valuable to me as a ranker. I think that Eric Armstead has thrived as both a strong side edge rusher and a run defender edge setter type in a Michael Bennett-esque way for that Seattle scheme. But he's also been able to move inside on a permanent basis like last year where they were struggling to find a consistent second defensive tackle alongside Javon Hargrave. And Eric Armstead, despite being a little bit slimmer and longer and kind of taller and not being truly 300 plus pounds, he's still able to, because of his length and his height at 6'6", he's still able to, I think 6'6", he might even be taller than that, still able to kind of hold his own in the run game and still able to be, of course, an amazing pass rusher from that position. He was one of the most efficient pass rushers from the interior last year in the NFL. And in a flash, he could play on the edge. He's very Calais Campbell-like, in my opinion. They have very much a similar skill set, a similar profile, which is why I think Jacksonville is so high on him, why they signed him. I think that also, they love, the GM there loves their long, tall defensive linemen like Trayvon Walker. Eric Armstead's going to be an interesting fit because he can move across the defensive line. He'll probably mostly play at D tackle. And he's going to be very productive as a pass rusher there, but he can also provide snaps on the edge in terms of run defense and things like that in certain situations. So at number 20, he is getting hurt maybe a little bit too much than you would like, but he's still a very, very good player. At number 19, Daron Payne of the Washington Commanders. Daron Payne brings the pain, baby. One of the best run stuffers in the NFL, period. One of the best nose tackles in the NFL, period. One of the highest paid nose tackles in the NFL, period. Daron Payne is just a pain for offensive lines. He takes on double teams. He's getting in the backfield. He's making, people around him better. He's what really he creates that space. He takes that space for Jonathan Allen beside him to get matchups and to move him around and get him featured as a pass rusher more so. And he's helped guys like Sweat and Chase Young in the past. But Payne had a huge season in 2023 as a pass rusher, or in 2022 as a pass rusher, I should say. And then in 2023, he dipped a little bit in terms of his sacks, his production, his pressures, things like that. His metrics were lower. His run defense metrics were still higher. But I think with Dan Quinn coming in, it's going to be very interesting to see how he utilizes somebody like Daron Payne, because Daron Payne is not his traditional defensive tackle. Right? He's a lot bigger. He's a lot stronger. He's a lot more powerful. He's a lot wider than the typical Dan Quinn defensive tackle. Dan Quinn usually likes the slimmer, smaller, quicker guys. So it's going to be intriguing to see how Daron Payne is actually used. But that could actually help Dan Quinn get away with some potentially lighter fronts, because Payne is so good in terms of just stalemating the offensive line and playing the run, that it might actually allow Quinn to be more flexible and more creative with some of the pass rushing packages and the angles of attack from the second level players and the edge rushers. So at number 19, Daron Payne. At number 18, Zach Allen of the Denver Broncos. He signed with the Broncos this past offseason, joined Vance Joseph in Denver, and he's just a really good player, man. I think he's super underrated. Like, his pressure numbers were top 7 or 8 in the NFL at this position last year. He had about 5 or 6 sacks, which didn't blow you away, but in terms of his all-around game, as a technician, as a workhorse in terms of his work rate, he plays every snap as much as he can. He plays, run defense at a really high level. He plays pass rush at a really high level. He's a disruptor. He's a deceptive, I would say deceptive in terms of his burst. That's not really the area of game that gives him an edge. I would say it's his length. I would say it's his hand fighting. I would say it's his technique. I think those are the areas, and his toughness overall. Like, I think he's also got a little bit of like a fluidity to his, like, he's got a length to him, but he's able to kind of get very kind of skinny sometimes, I guess you could call it. He's just able to slice his way through as a pass rusher or a run defender. So, yeah, Zach Allen, very productive, very, very solid, and a workhorse for any defensive line. He's a great fit in Vance Joseph's defense that loves to blitz, loves to send, people from the second level. Allen really feasts with his length out there. So at number 18, Zach Allen. At number 17, Kobe Turner, the rookie this past season in 2023 for the Los Angeles Rams, feasted alongside Aaron Donald, getting mismatch after mismatch. Kobe Turner just showed off a unique, rare awareness and IQ for a very young defensive lineman. He just does things right. And I think he has a very good understanding of just like feel for football. Like, I think his quickness is not exactly generated as much from physical ability as it is from his mind. I think he just sees things very fast. He understands how to attack angles, how to see a running back in the backfield and get after him, how to slice through on a pass rush or a blitz. And Turner was just all around very productive. He put up pressures. He put up a ton of sacks as a rookie. He put up run stops, like really didn't have any flaws in his game from a statistical profile perspective. So at number 17, he'll continue to shine in LA. He'll be asked to do more this year as Aaron Donald is now retired. At number 16, Vita Vea, everyone's favorite defensive tackle. Vita Vea is an absolute incredible athlete. I think that, you look at this guy with the hair, the flow that he has, and the size. He is an absolute behemoth, a mammoth of a human being. But he is so athletic. His quickness, his ability to move, his ability to laterally move, his ability to accelerate, his ability to drop back into coverage. I mean, this guy does everything. And he is such a kind of bendable nose tackle. You don't usually see guys this big that are so malleable with the way that they take on blocks, and they're able to kind of reach around and be in awkward positions. Like, Vita Vea is very good in that regard. And he's just such a crucial aspect to Todd Bowles' defense. He could not run his defense without this type of player. So Vita Vea is an absolute monster at number 16. He doesn't flash in terms of huge sack totals, huge pressure totals, huge run defense totals even at times, just because he is positioned to take on blocks. He is sort of like Grover Stewart. They take on blocks, but Vita Vea just does it at a different level in terms of explosiveness, athleticism. It's off the charts. So at number 16, Vita Vea. Entering the top 15, Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver is the exact opposite of Vita Vea. Ed Oliver is designed to put up production. He's designed to put up pressures. He's designed to put up sacks. He is a penetrator through and through. He is undersized. He is smaller for the defensive tackle position, but he is quick. He's twitchy. He's fast. And he's one of the freakiest D tackles in football. There's a reason he was drafted so high once upon a time. Like, this guy just plays with rare quickness in his feet and his hands. And I think the last couple of years, he has really accelerated his growth as a player. He has become arguably the best defensive lineman on Buffalo, period. Like, his disruption levels at times are outrageous. His ability to just clean guards' clocks in the pass rushing department is pretty impressive. He is an all-around really good D tackle. I'd say that at times he can be powered around. He can be moved around because he's a little undersized, but he does such a good job slicing through and penetrating and, getting a quick burst off the ball that it's hard at times to get hands on him. But when guys do get hands on him, they can kind of move him around a little bit in the run game. But as a pass rusher, he's really, really, really good. So at number 15, Ed Oliver. Number 14, Leonard Williams, a BLV favorite for years. Leonard Williams was traded mid-season last year to the Seattle Seahawks in kind of a puzzling trade overall. But Leonard Williams did show his value on that team. He really was a lot better on Seattle. It's almost like he got a boot in the butt or something. But Leonard Williams, what could I say about him? Like, his length is outrageous. He plays with such good ability to extend his arms, play in the pass rush and the run defense, get his hands on you and move you around with power and strength. His ability to, take up space on a defensive line and make up ground with that length and athleticism is pretty impressive. I think that he plays with such a high level of IQ. His understanding on plays of screens, run plays, even like stunts and things like that, he does a great job in partnering with players up front, with seeing into the backfield. He has so many, different layers of just nuance in terms of his experience and the different schemes he's played in. But I think he's still a guy that's capable of having an 8+, 10+ sack season. We've seen it in his past. I think it's just a matter of how he's utilized. But overall, you can't really find a flaw in his game. He's not like the quickest or the twitchiest, but his length, his size, his IQ make up for it. So at number 14, Leonard Williams. At number 13, Kenny Clark. Now, this is a different package of a defensive tackle. Kenny Clark is a big, round, twitchy monster. Like, Kenny Clark is one of those guys that it doesn't really make sense. He's like a nose tackle, but he's a penetrating nose tackle. It's kind of a weird breed that Kenny Clark is, which is why he's been one of my favorites in the league to watch, because it doesn't really make sense for a guy this big and this wide to be able to move the way that Kenny Clark does. Like, his twitch, his quickness, his burst off the ball is just insane. He has some really impressive pass rushing reps all over, and he's been a sack monster. He's been a run defense inside stuff monster. He can really do everything. They ask him to be their primary, guy that takes on double teams in the run game. They ask him to be their primary pass rusher on pass downs on the inside. He just does so much for this defense. I could see his pass rushing really taking a step forward this year because of the scheme change just in terms of production, but his pressure numbers are always there year in and year out. Like, he's always a 60+ type of pressure guy. So at number 13, Kenny Clark, a really impressive, kind of a weird style of player. At number 12, Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter, as a rookie, already flashed high-end elite potential. He's just got to be a little bit more consistent and a little bit more disruptive, in my opinion, as a run defender. But as a pass rusher, he really showed up in a big way, even as a rookie. He put up sacks. He put up a number of pressures. He was highly productive in the snaps that he played. And I think those are great signs for his future. There were moments and times in games where he was really flashing as like a take over the game on the defensive line type of player. And there's only so few of those players in the NFL. Carter is very strong. He plays with a very good football sense for things around him, like quarterback scrambling, like, draw plays, runs, even pass rush. But I think what makes him special is his combination of pure power, speed to power, and then also hands. I think he is really good in terms of his power that he gets and generates from his hands and the force that he brings. He is just a pure force at defensive tackle. So at number 12, we've got Jalen Carter. At number 11, Christian Barmore. And this one is unfortunate. I might have even ranked him a little bit higher if not for the whole situation with his health right now, which is probably going to keep him out for the entire 2024 season. But I kind of felt like I still needed to rank him, as I will with linebackers as well, coming up in my next rankings video. But Christian Barmore, just a really awesome all-around defensive tackle. It's been great to watch him. I feel like Barmore, he's super powerful, super strong. I think he plays with that aspect to his game where he's very malleable in terms of his athleticism and his flexibility in his game, and his strength is really impressive, which I think makes him a really good run defender, because I think primarily he's more known for his quickness, his burst, and his hands in the pass rushing department. But I think that he's maybe not like he's big, don't get me wrong, but he's more of a power guy. And I would say that he has a rare blend of power and twitchiness. It's more of a quickness thing than a pure straight ahead speed thing, but he's really strong. Like, I can't really find an area where he is not great. I think Barmore this year, if he would have played the whole year, I really feel like he would have entered like the top 5 or 6, because I mean, New England with him on the D-line kind of entered the elite run defense conversation. And then by the end of the year, without Matthew Judon, he was like by far their best defensive player. So yeah, Christian Barmore is an awesome player at number 11 for the Patriots. At number 10, Javon Hargrave of the San Francisco 49ers. Hargrave is just consistently one of the most disruptive pressure players at this position in the NFL, one of the best pass rushers in the NFL at this position. Very good burst. I think it's kind of, he's sort of similar to Kenny Clark in terms of like his size and his look to him, but he's also got that rare breed of burst and pop off the line, which allows him to play in multiple different defenses. As a nose tackle in Pittsburgh, and then as a traditional 3-tech in Philly or even San Francisco. I think his best position, though, is more of like a 3-tech and a 4-3, where he has less responsibilities against the run. Because at times he does show flashes of not being great against the run and being moved around and being overpowered in that department. But in terms of his quickness, I think he's elite. In terms of his hands in the pass rushing department, I think he's elite. And just his pass rushing pressure numbers, sack numbers, all that sort of stuff, each and every year, it's always top notch. And year one in San Francisco is a bit of a transition for him, but he really found his way and was still highly productive. So look out for another great year, even probably a better year than 2023 from Hargrave in 2024. At number 9, Jonathan Allen, one of my favorites at this position. I think what Allen brings that a lot of the guys I haven't discussed here on this list bring is, I think he's a rare leader for this position. He's very vocal. He's always talking to his teammates. He's always firing them up. He's always getting them going. But he's also really tough. I think he's kind of an old school defensive lineman in many ways, beyond just the face mask and the cage that he's worn at times. But Allen, I think he could play in pretty much any defense at a very high level. And I think he's got really good quickness. I think he's got a deep bag of pass rushing moves, and he's shown that off throughout his career. I think he plays with good power, but again, like very high IQ, very good leader. I love Allen. I think he didn't have his best year in terms of sacks and pressures. It was still good, but he's definitely shown better in his career. But I think maybe with Dan Quinn, he's the one that in more of a Diggy Zua type role, he could really, really thrive. So I'm looking forward to that. If Daron Payne is going to be like sort of a Jonathan Hankins type, I could see Jonathan Allen having like a ton of pressures and sacks as in a Diggy Zua type. So at number 9, Jonathan Allen is going to thrive under Dan Quinn. At number 8, Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons is, to me, like one of the scariest humans in the NFL. Like, I just would not want to see Jeffrey Simmons in a dark alley. Like, he is an absolute monster. And he didn't have his best year last year. I think he dealt with some injuries potentially, but he doesn't have a lot of help in Tennessee. Like, Harold Landry is his real only help out there. And I feel like he's just been a very good player for like 3 or 4 years in a row now, to where like not ranking him in the top 10 would just be egregious. He's very good in all levels. He's very strong, very powerful. And he's also deceptively slippery. He finds his way through. And they use him in a lot of different ways. Like they'll line him out wide sometimes on stunts and simulated looks. Of course, he can play as a nose tackle because he's strong enough to do that. He can play as a 3-tech penetrating type. Like he just has a rare breed of different talent. He's also just frigging powerful, like a bull rusher. So Jeffrey Simmons is scary. At number 8, didn't have his best statistical season, but still an absolute freak monster. At number 7, Derek Brown. Brown's a little bit lower than I think some other people would put him for me personally. And that's really because I just don't think he has the pass rushing statistics to really indicate that in terms of value at this position, he's a top 5 player. But in terms of run defense, it's hard to argue that he's not the best at this position, or at least in the top 2 or 3. Like he had like 100 tackles this year. I think he set like a defensive tackle record or something egregious. Now, I did go back and try to watch a lot of his snaps just to see those tackles, and some of them were like a lot of effort tackles, which, don't get me wrong, that's amazing, especially on a really bad team where you're having to make tackles at the second level. But that's not exactly ideal. Like, you don't want your D tackle making tackles at the second level for a reason. They're supposed to be holding up blocks and getting in the backfield and being super disruptive. Now, that being said, Derek Brown is that. He is all that. He's very powerful, very strong. He's one of the strongest players at this position. I think he's got good enough quickness to his game. I just wish he would be, a little bit more dominant as a pass rusher, a little bit more productive as a pass rusher. Like, good, he has decent pressure numbers, but like he doesn't transition that to sacks. So I'm a little nitpicky here with Derek Brown, but I think for good reason. I love him in the run game. I think that he's very hard to play against for opposing offensive lines because of his work rate, because of his power. The guy never gives up on a play, which is extremely impressive. At number 7, this guy is tough, gritty, a grinder. Derek Brown at number 7. At number 6, Christian Wilkins of the Las Vegas Raiders. Wilkins signed a massive contract with the Raiders this offseason for good reason. I value Christian Wilkins over somebody like Derek Brown because I think last year, 2022, he showcased that he could lead the NFL in run stops. And then in 2023, he didn't do that, but he showcased that he could put up a 10-sack, 9-sack season, which I just think that's a very rare blend of talent. It's hard for a defensive tackle to be the best at run stuffing and run stopping, but then also being one of the best pass rushers. So, like, to me, Christian Wilkins is a 3-down, never take him off the field defensive tackle, which is kind of a rare breed. He has excellent size. He is massive, but I think he plays with very high IQ, very good length, and I would say he's more so a bull rush, sort of like engage type pass rusher. I think he's more of a contain kind of and then find his way to the quarterback. I don't exactly see Christian Wilkins as like a downhill, see the quarterback, get the quarterback type of guy, but that is where I think him playing in Las Vegas is going to be intriguing because, the Raiders scheme is mostly like a Patriot-esque type of scheme, but given that they have Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz, they do play more of a 4-man front type of traditional look than you would think a New England Belichick defense would play. But Wilkins was also like drafted to be in the Flores defense, but he's played under Vic Fangio, and he's had his best pass rushing numbers under Vic Fangio. But he was also a great run stuffer for a guy like Flores or that style of defense. So it's an interesting mix going to the Giants. So I'm very intrigued to see how he's utilized. But I just feel like he is going to make the Raiders so much better. He's just one of those guys that makes everyone around him better because he's good in all facets. He can rush the quarterback and get you a sack. He can stop the run in the backfield. He can hold up the line and allow others to penetrate. And at number 6, that's why he's valued for me over somebody like Derek Brown, who doesn't quite have that well-rounded nature to his game, in my opinion. At number 5, Justin Madubuike, the Baltimore Ravens. Madubuike just had a freakish pass rushing season in 2023. He put up like the most sacks on the Baltimore Ravens, who are probably the best defense in the NFL. I think it was like 12 and a half or 13 sacks, if I'm not mistaken. He put up rare pressure numbers alongside the elite in the game. And he, to me, is kind of like Grady Jarrett-esque. Like, that's the way I see him. He plays with incredible burst, incredible hands, incredible feet. His pop is next level. That's where he reminds me of Grady Jarrett, where he's not the biggest. He's kind of a shorter defensive tackle, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of stature and size, by an eyeball test. He's got kind of that roundness to him, but man, he is just a ball of fire. Like, he is just gets in there, like slips in there, and then he's in the backfield in like a hurry, right? So he's one of the quickest urgent defensive tackles in the sport. That's what makes him real special at number 5. And that's what I think makes his longevity as a pass rusher potentially there. Like, I don't think he's a one-hit wonder, because I just think his ability to penetrate and his twitch is at such a high level that it's hard for other players to replicate that and get hands on that. So at number 5, Justin Madubuike. At number 4, DeForest Buckner, who for whatever reason, I don't understand why this guy's just lost all respect by every list I've ever seen this offseason. What does DeForest Buckner not do that other people do? I mean, DeForest Buckner put up sacks this year. I think he had 8 or 9 sacks. DeForest Buckner is one of the best run stoppers in the sport. DeForest Buckner is probably the most badass looking defensive tackle in the NFL, with the visor and the length he's got. And he just have you ever seen a 6'7" defensive tackle that doesn't look like he has an ounce of fat on him? That's DeForest Buckner. Dude is an absolute freak monster. He's the best defensive lineman on the Colts, has been for a while. He was one of the best on the Niners. Everywhere he goes, they're elite run defense. And then he uses a rare blend of length and quickness to be a dominant rusher from the interior as well. So, yeah, I mean, he really doesn't have any weaknesses. You could put him in pretty much any defense, but I do think he is best in that 4-3, wide 9 type, Gus Bradley, Robert Saleh type defense, where he's using his quickness, he's using his length inside to just bully people and get to the quarterback or to disrupt in the running game. So, at number 4, DeForest Buckner. At number 3, Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams, in my opinion, is the best pure 3 tech in the NFL. Probably. In terms of a well-rounded 3 tech in the sport. Like, the guy is so strong. It's like insane. There's some times where Quinnen Williams doesn't even make a pass rush move. He just kind of runs into you, and then he'll just throw you around, or like take 2 people and just move them to the left like Beyonce, and then make the tackle, bro. Like, Quinnen Williams is just an absolute monster. I think he has a highlight tape that's probably more egregious of other humans at the NFL level than most people. Like, his highlight tape of just him destroying grown men and moving them around like nothing is just like nothing you've ever seen. Then he's got rare twitch to get off the ball and to get hands on you with quickness, and just a rapid ability to just eat up the run game. I also feel like he didn't have his best sack numbers this past year, but he's certainly capable of being the best pass rusher at any given moment, any given season at this position. But overall, just freakishly strong, just really athletic. And it feels like he's getting smarter every year. He's getting more aware and how to bat down passes, get in passing lanes, like help others around him better. So at number 3, Quinnen Williams. At number 2, Dexter Lawrence. Sexy Dexy is at number 2. The best nose tackle in the NFL by a wide margin, because not only is he a dominant run defender, like legit one of the top 3 run defenders in the NFL, but he's also a rare breed in terms of pressure, the ability to get to the quarterback at this position. You just do not see defensive tackles in terms of nose tackles putting up the pressure numbers, the statistics that he puts up. Like, it's just egregious. There's games where he'll put up 8 pressures. He'll put up 2 sacks. Like, that shouldn't happen. Like, that, players at this position don't do that, right? So, as a 330-pound plus player, like, you shouldn't be doing this. And then you watch him against the run, and nobody moves him off the ball. Like, nobody ever moves him. There's snaps where he's getting doubled, and he just doesn't move. He's just standing right in the middle. So you don't want him run up the middle against the Giants ever. So Dexter Lawrence is an absolute beast, man. He's got incredible strength, incredible, lower body, like the ability to get low on opposing linemen, the ability to beat them with quickness in a pass rushing. And then he also's kind of got some moves to him, bro. Like, he's got some deceptive moves to him that you shouldn't see from a nose tackle because his body can just pull it off in a way that others can't. So at number 2, Dexter Lawrence. And at number 1, the best pass rusher and the best defensive tackle in the NFL is Chris Jones. I think I ranked Chris Jones number 1 last year as well, if I'm not mistaken. But you guys know, if you've been day one BLVers, like, Chris Jones been one of my guys for like 7 years. Like, I remember saying Chris Jones in like 2017 or something was like a top 10 player in the NFL, and people were like laughing, but it is what it is, whatever. But Chris Jones is an amazing player, and now I almost feel like he's become a little overrated just because, like, it kind of bugs me. Like, he takes plays off sometimes, and he just doesn't really care about the run game sometimes, especially in, like, the week 4 of the regular season where you're like, why are the Chiefs getting gashed for 200 yards on the run? And it's because Chris Jones, like, just isn't showing any effort. But then, when you really get to it, like big plays, third downs, 2-minute situations, closing out games, playoffs, like there's nobody you would rather have at this position. His ability to get a key pressure when you need it, slip through on a protection when you need it, the ability to bully people in the run game when you need it, the ability to tip down a pass when you need it, the ability to come on a stunt when you need it, the ability to line up on the edge and still bull rush from that. That's also what makes him special. Like, you don't really see Quinnen Williams rushing from the edge that much, right? Like, Chris Jones can rush from the interior. He can rush from the edge. He can rush with power. He can rush with quickness. And he's very smart. So, and he's got those long arms. He can bat down passes like he did to Josh Allen, I think, or Brock Purdy. Yeah, like, huge play in the AFC Championship. Huge plays in the Super Bowl. Just a clutch player. So, and then huge play of the divisional round, like, clutch player. At number 1, the Chiefs aren't the Chiefs without Chris Jones. He's the best defensive tackle in the NFL today. Those are the top 32 interior defensive linemen in the NFL. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's Mitch. We'll see you in the next video. Peace, guys.